recording. This
Lucky.
is just natural, au naturel poddy. Yeah.
So how have you been?
Not too bad. Could be worse. I reckon that should be our podcast slogan. Could be worse.
Fair enough. Yeah, why listen to us?
Could be
Could
worse.
be worse.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. That probably sets expectations.
We also need to give a disclaimer that if you're revising and trying to listen to a procurement podcast, we don't always get to the topic straight away. However, don't be concerned by that. Don't be concerned by us kind of taking our time and enjoying
Taking you on a
procurement.
journey.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes when you're revising for exams, you need a bit of like stress reliever. You need people to talk shite.
Yeah.
Need to enjoy it a bit.
What do we call it?
Decompression.
Pleasure for the ear. Ear pleasure.
Yeah.
So it's our pleasure to give you ear pleasure.
Yeah. Should we change the name of the podcast to Procurement Ear Pleasure?
Procurement Pleasure Hub. I feel like there's good options there.
Yeah. I mean, if there are any listeners, and if you do want to kind of submit some suggested names, then that would be great. We probably won't pick them, but at least we'll know there's people out there listening.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, like, what could we do? There's a sort of discussion point for today's surprise pod, and I thought I'll just have a look at the Cips website, and we could run through.
In the last 30 seconds, you've been thinking about what we should do.
I have, yeah. Basically, I just panicked and put Cips in on Google.
What is procurement?
Well, unfortunately, the Cips website is down. It says
really?
our website is currently undergoing maintenance. We'll be back soon. Yeah.
I was looking
So
at
that
it
kind of
earlier
killed
today.
that one. I have been thinking though, on a kind of serious note, where we started with the pod, we kind of need episodes that discuss Cips, like the strategies, because I've sat through loads of these exams, and there's certain strategies that work really well to the multiple choice exams and to the kind of essay exams, and perhaps episodes where we're going through those will be quite useful, but also just in general what is actually required for you to get the MCips beautiful letters after your name.
Yeah, so not necessarily like procurement topics, but kind of like how to answer the questions.
Yeah, because
Do you mean-
I found out a lot of it was all about actually how you answer the questions. Like, the theory, yes, is important, but if you can back it up with good examples, most of the time the examiners are just like, they're so happy with that, they just dish out marks,
Yeah, is there like a set structure that you have to do basically?
Yeah, you don't have to do it, but it's advisable. Obviously, multiple choice is just about selecting the right answers. To a degree, but the essay ones, there's definitely a format you would want to follow.
And just before moving on to the essay ones, this might seem like a stupid point, but I know it does come up sometimes around the multiple choice ones. You think you're going through and everything, you just pick one answer. I think I'm right in saying that for some questions it will say like pick 2 of or pick 3 of. So when you're doing the multiple choice, I suppose it's a good idea to kind of, like, when you're checking back through after, make sure that you have picked 1 if the question says pick 1, or pick 2, or if it says like pick the one that it isn't rather than pick the one that it is.
I think,
like, do you know what I mean?
That's right. There's, as you go through the levels, so level 4 is a bit more black and white in that if it says pick 1, you can only pick 1, and if you were to try and pick another one, it would just move that answer to that next option. But then you go to levels 5 and 6, and then they start to say pick as many correct answers, or each answer will say 2 options, A and B, or B and C only, or C and D, something like that. So yeah, they do get like that, but realistically you get quite a lot of time. And I found that if you go through the 45 questions, 45? I think it's 45. If you go through the questions and you kind of do 1 or 2 minutes on each question, you still then got another 15, 20, half an hour where you can go back through and look at all the questions that you may flag for review.
Yeah, the multiple choice ones aren't I could struggle time-wise, well, not from my memory anyway, especially on level 4.
It's kind of done the way they do it, in the sense that you've got almost double the amount of time you would expect on the questions, but then you've also got the pass mark of 70%, which isn't that high relative to other professions. So yeah, definitely take that in stride, and kind of I use that to kind of bash a few out in one go.
Yeah, you love bashing them out.
Yeah, I remember one exam window I bashed 3 out in the space of 2 days, which is pretty heavy.
Was you waking a bit from that, or you just took that in your stride? That's normal for you, is it? Bashing that many times?
It's not normal for me, mate. That was overdrive a little bit.
After you bashed the 3rd one out, did you kind of look at yourself and in the mirror and think, what have I done? I can't allow myself to get like that again.
I did feel quite ashamed, because I did 2 essay exams the week after, so I actually sat 5 exams in the one window.
Bloody hell.
Obviously, the essay exams is like you're bashing out long ones, and after bashing out 3 quick ones and then having a small break to recover, it was quite a lot on the old brain. It went well, so we move.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that is another question that a lot of people have, especially if they're new to Cips. Like, how many can you bash out in one window?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, right? So I was lucky in the sense that it was during COVID. I've not got a family to take care of. I didn't have the commute, all of that stuff that actually gave me a bit more time to procrastinate.
Yeah, you have got a family, but you just don't take care of them.
Something like that, yeah. Just a neglected wife. That kind of meant that I was a bit more comfortable taking on a few exams, but there were people on the same course who had family commitments, and they would be doing one. So typically in one exam window, you'd either do 2 multiple choice exams or 1 essay exam. And if you follow that, you kind of complete a level within about a year.
Yeah, I think that's what I did. I did 2 per window, except one time where I did one, what they called, it's not, the official language isn't multiple choice and written, isn't it? It's like constructed and no, it's I did have it's objective, that's it.
Objective, yeah. You think I'd know? I sat bloody 1,000 of them.
So I mean, in terms of the objective ones, those are the multiple choice ones, and the constructive ones are the written ones. So I know there's a bit of structure that needs to go into the written ones, isn't it, in terms of how you have to kind of start with a point and then evidence, explain, link, is that right?
Yeah, something along those lines. The questions are kind of in a way where they ask, the question will kind of set out maybe, you need to give 5 examples of, or 3 examples of, or 3 advantages, 3 disadvantages, or what are the pros and cons, and you kind of go from there. And for each advantage or disadvantage or whatever it is you've been asked to do, you state what you believe the answer is. You kind of elaborate, so you kind of go with, well, by this I mean X, Y, Z, and then you follow it up with a real world example. So you're perfectly entitled to kind of refer to examples that you've come across in your industry or in previous roles, or what you've seen in the news, and it's just linking that textbook theory to what you've seen in the real world with your opinion kind of pushed onto it a little bit. And if you do that for each paragraph,
I was going to say, could you sort of just make up an example? If you didn't have one, you could just sort of say, when I did you meant to write, sorry, that's another point. Are you meant to write it in kind of like first person or third person? As in, like, when I procured this software, I did this, or when procuring software, you should do this.
Yeah, so it depends on the question. So the question might already have a case study, and they'll give you a company, like they'll give you a procurement director involved in a scenario, and it will reference, I don't know, let's call it ABC Limited, which they do quite a lot. You would then talk about ABC Limited. So you might say, oh, ABC Limited are having issues with their supply chain due to language barriers on the global market, so something like that. And in that kind of question, you constantly refer to ABC Limited as the example. But if there isn't a case study included in that particular question, then you've got two options. You've got the option of, in my industry, so in this software industry, this was a problem we encountered, or and this is what I did quite a lot, is I had a couple of go-to examples. So Costa Coffee, no, there are other coffee brands out there, but Costa was a good example for me, in that there's a lot of examples where you can just apply it to Costa Coffee. So you're looking at where they sit in the market. Is it a competitive marketplace? Sort of a Porter's 5 forces analysis is quite easy to do on a Costa Coffee.
And check out our last episode. Fair trade. A bit of promotion for the last episode, which I have no idea if that's been released. No idea what's going on, but surely one of us is organised with that. It's not me.
I don't know. I think we have to check in with the sound guy.
Our sound engineer, yeah. My agent.
Engineer, yeah. Sound guru.
Sorry, I completely disrupted it then. Go on, what were you saying?
Sound guru. So Costa was an example. Costa Coffee, and then I'd kind of have a more confusing or overseas example where you're selling worldwide, so not necessarily a food industry, but McDonald's was one that cropped up quite a lot actually as a good example.
Yeah.
And then the petrol industry as well, because we could see you can quite easily refer to the petrol industry and what's happened to the prices and the government taxes and all of that good stuff. So it'll be different for everyone. People will have experiences. There was one person who works for Google on my course, so most of her examples were referencing Google. But then there was other people who not really got those examples from industry, so they would effectively study a couple of companies in relatively good detail, and they would just use those throughout.
Yeah, so it's probably useful to have like a bank of things to refer to before the exam. Fill up the bank the night before.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that. I do like where you're going with that. So when I was bashing them out, I definitely had to refer to my bank quite a lot. I think the bank was very important. It's probably for another episode, but we can bash out a few examples for the listeners so that they've got some go-tos. And I mean, going into more detail about Costa Coffee, where we can use them as examples, and a couple of other firms as well. And then you can take it from our bank and put it into your bank.
I mean, if the listeners want to hear us bashing stuff out, or telling them how they can bash out, then that sounds great.
Yeah, I think that's what the pod's about, isn't it? Helping each other bash them out, get through it as quick as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in it together. We're all bashing together at the end of the day, and we're on the same journey to kind of self-improve. We're hoping that bashing a load in quick succession can elevate you to a higher status, really.
Yeah, no, that's good actually. So keep that in mind. And that leads on quite nicely actually. I did have quite a big bank. I had a bank of examples which you kind of carry through your 2 or 3 years of doing the exams. But then I also had a bank for each essay exam. So it might cover a particular topic. So it might cover competitive markets, and I would have effectively an A4 sheet of paper where I've got anything that goes onto my bank just kind of logged in, written down, and put into bullet point form, and then I would just literally memorize it, take it all in, and then do a brain dump when I get into the exam. Always talk of bashing one out, and now you've actually gone to bash one out mid-recording.
No, I think someone requesting some sort of license had just turned up. I didn't really hear the conversation, so hopefully it's all gone well. Might need to crop this part out.
You haven't got the old bailiffs turning up again?
Well, I guess we'll find out if my laptop gets taken in about 5 seconds.
Fair enough, yeah. You see one can't pay, take it away.
You know, I was thinking the other day around people who are getting like evicted from their house and they try and be violent to the people evicting them. What is the actual point of them being violent? Because, you know, either if you're violent and you stay in the house, then the police know where they are and they can just come and arrest you. But if you're violent and you decide to go somewhere else to run away from the police, that's what the people wanted anyway, and they wanted to kick you out of the house. So either way, violence isn't the answer. That's what I'm trying to say.
So, kind of relating that to Cips, like when you're sitting your exam, don't attack the invigilator. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to convert it to Cips topic. Yeah, Cips tip.
Yeah, that's a massive Cips tip. Don't swing at Doris the invigilator if you're having a stressful time.
It did kind of make me laugh. I don't know if it was the same for your exams, but I sat all my exams at the same place. 7 of the 8 in the same place. And we always had the same invigilator that would read out the little script. But I don't know if it was maybe it wasn't her passion that she didn't get joy out of, watching a load of people bash out their Cips tips.
Exam, yeah.
Because she would literally rattle through the script so quickly, and it would be like, well, I'm glad this isn't my first time listening to it, otherwise I'd have no idea what you're trying to say.
Yeah, they do rattle through the old tips before the exam. I must admit, I had a right old mixed bag of invigilators, a couple of old battle axes. They were just there for keeping their bills on at home, keeping the lights on. And then I had a few that were quite nice. There was one woman who was just obsessed with her own phone, so she was on her phone for most of our exam.
Is that even allowed?
Sure not what I don't think so, but it even went off at one point, her ringtone, which she just said sorry and cracked on with it. So real mixed bag, but you shouldn't let that impact the outcome of your Cips journey.
I find one thing that sometimes people get quite nervous about, and one thing that helps is that we could sort of describe what the exam venues are generally like, as in the process for when you turn from when you turn up to the actual doing of the exam, what kind of happens. Maybe it would be calming for people to know that up front, so not going in there without any information.
Yeah, that's a good idea. They've recently introduced the ability to take the exams from home, so you can pay to be remotely invigilated. It does require a good internet connection, and I did it for a lot of my multiple choice ones, but I didn't do it for the essay ones because, to be honest, because if I needed the bathroom, it would be a bit weird taking your laptop into the bathroom with you, with an invigilator.
Do you really have to do that?
I'm not too sure. When they first released it, you weren't allowed a bathroom break, but I'm not sure what the rule is now. So I just thought I'll just go into the exams for that, into the exam halls. The exam centres were slightly different. So a couple of them had lockers where you could put your stuff in before you go into the exam, and others were a bit more old school, and you just leave your coat and your bag at the back of the room, and crack on with it. So that was kind of the options for your belongings. But to be honest, I didn't really take much in with me. Just my visual bank of notes to go through before I sat the exam.
Yeah, and you're allowed clear bottles to have water in and stuff. Some places do have water there, but sometimes it's just a bit awkward asking them "Oh, excuse me, can I have some water, please?"
Yeah, no, I didn't. Some of them had nice bottles for you, like a little bottle, and some of them had plastic cups. But I just
rusty
always went
taps.
Yeah, I went in with a 2-litre bad boy every time,
Yeah, as long as you don't piss yourself.
Well, it doesn't matter, does it? You're there for the marks. Commitment to win, and you need that water to keep you kind of on the ball. But yeah, that's kind of the only thing you really need to bring in with you just to keep yourself going. I think they do offer biscuits if you're diabetic or something. Yeah, don't quote me on that.
So sort of to summarise then, make sure you read the question and know what it's asking in terms of number of things to say, whether that's multiple choice, a number of options to pick, or number of examples to give on the written constructed exams. Also, having a big bank is very, very important. What else would you say?
Yeah, definitely having a bank. So the other thing is there is a notepad. So when you log in to your exam and the actual exam starts, there is a notepad that you get. You kind of almost like click on a button and a notepad pops up and you can minimize it or maximize it. And that was kind of where I like to shoot my knowledge. So I just kind of shoot my knowledge onto that.
All over that notepad.
Basically, yeah. So I just, because obviously everything's in the bank, but there's so much going on. You might not remember everything. You might read a question and then get put off. So I kind of took the first couple of minutes to anything that I knew was particularly difficult, if it came up, or something that I struggled to remember constantly, I would just, yeah, like you say, just bash it out on that notepad, leave it on there for the duration of the exam. And I to be honest, I'd do that before I even read the questions.
Fair enough.
And yeah, I'd crack on with it. That was more for the essay exams, to be honest. With the multiple choice ones, if there was a couple of things that are similar, but or maybe like 5 or 6 things from the Cips procurement policy or something like that, then yeah, I might put that on there. But I found it was more helpful for the essay exams.
And I guess last point as well is be careful what you highlight and what you press when you highlight, because I don't think there's an undo button. I could be wrong, but I don't believe there's an undo button. So if you accidentally delete your whole answer, then tough shite. You can't go back.
So that is true. That's what they tell you. There's definitely no undo button. I've seen people who have left crying, and spoken to them later on to find out that they've tried to do a copy and paste of Control C and Control V, and it's not worked as well. I mean, I tried it and it worked for me, but you don't want to take that risk in your exam, do you?
No. So, I mean, if you're listening to this before your exam, then do we want to say good luck? Or, I mean, the less people with MSIPs, the more employable you are. So speaking from a MSIPs perspective, maybe you want to wish them bad luck.
I don't really want to say that to our listener.
The single listener out there,
yeah,
whoever you are,
really keeping us motivated. And it's probably the sound guy, but yeah, maybe just go in there and do okay. And you need to come back for more tips. You know exactly where we are. So we'll be here to help you fail next time.
Because if everyone passes first time, that's less viewers. If you're listening to this for your second time, it didn't help you out the first time, and then thanks for listening again. We appreciate the extra views. Clearly we didn't work the first time round, so keep trying, keep listening. Maybe after 10, 20 listens, it might help.
Well, I have to admit, this is only going to be episode 2 or 3 or something, isn't it? So if you failed, it's probably not our fault. It's probably something you're doing.
Yeah, that's on you. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you get 20, 30 deep with us and you're starting to fail, then maybe I'll apologise, but not yet.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a half-assed apology, but only if you pay us.
If we have to, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that kind of reminds me as well. Like we're gonna do sort of episodes that spin away from Cips as well. So I'm thinking, shorter episodes that cover Cips tips. We'll have some episodes on specific topics. So we'll go into certain models and certain hot pressing procurement issues. I think you wanted to do a segment on procurement. What did you call it? Procurement fuck ups?
Duck ups.
Yeah, duck. Okay. Procurement duck ups, and then probably just some open conversations with people that are stakeholders that we work with and other people work with, and get their experience and their perspective of the procurement professional and whether we are a value add to them or whether we're a pain in the backside.
Well, hopefully they won't be as honest as they feel. Anyway, I guess to kind of conclude the circular structure, we're going to surprisingly end it in the same way as we started it. So, bye. Surprise.
See you later.